Hey everyone, this is Rico Figliolini, host of UrbanEBB here in the city of Peachtree Corners, a little smart city just north of Atlanta. Have some great guests. I'll introduce them momentarily. I just want to say thank you, though, to two of our sponsors. EV Remodeling Inc. Eli owns the company, him and his family. They live here in Peachtree Corners. Great people. They do design to build. You need a room, a whole house rebuilt, they're the people to go to. Great work. They've done over 260 homes. Check them out, evremodelinginc.com. And Vox Populi. They're also local to Peachtree Corners, just on the edge of that city line almost. They do your branding. They will bring your branding to life. So anything that you want to do as a business, whether it's a trade show, a truck wrap, or simply you want to put your logo or a saying on almost any object, you challenge them, they'll be able to do it. So check them out at voxpopuli.com, and I welcome and thank them for their support of these podcasts and the magazines. Now, our guests. We're here in Curiosity Lab in Peachtree Corners. This is Brandon Branham and Daisy Wall. And Brandon here is the Assistant City Manager of Peachtree Corners, as well as the Chief Technology Officer, among other things. So, running Curiosity Lab and all that. And Daisy Wall here works as Senior Director
You're right.
for May Mobility. So I welcome you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And fun fact, Vox was actually who wrapped the autonomous vehicle we'll be talking about today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't even know that. Cool. And that looks like a great vehicle. And you may see that as part of this interview as an over-a-ride video. Otherwise, check the show notes and you'll see a gallery of images. So let's start. How do we start this? You know, this place has been here for how long now, Curiosity Lab?
Opened September of 2019.
Right, you're going on 5 years.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing that in the magazine, something about that. The autonomous vehicle lane, that's your living lab, first in the nation, really, when it started.
To do both connected and autonomous, yes.
And then
and 5 years later, our journey through AV is what's led us here today. Kind of that path of understanding the technology with that first real-world deployment on public streets in 2019 with the purpose-built autonomous vehicle, focusing on that low-speed, last-mile connection. And as we as a city are starting to kind of expand the service operations of that area, is how we met May Mobility and launched that program in September.
Cool. Has T-Mobile's 5G network really helped getting this off the ground?
Maybe let you answer that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, obviously, as you're running autonomous vehicles, one of the most important things is making sure the vehicle stays connected, right? Because that's how everything operates. And so we want to make sure that, there's high performance, it's always connected, and there's redundancy. And so really the 5G, foundation here at Peachtree Corners has been fantastic. The team has worked really closely with our engineering team to kind of figure out what different SIM cards, what different connectivity levels work best with our vehicles. And so it's exciting to have that embedded in our vehicles, and hopefully we can scale that, over time.
That's great. I mean, I was just thinking about latency. You don't want to be,
Absolutely.
To be late. And sorry we hit you.
Absolutely.
So we've had other vehicles too here.
Yep.
So, and for a variety of reasons, different ways things are done. What makes May Mobility different from those others? Well, maybe you want to start explaining what the others are.
Yeah, we could start kind of with our evolution through AV space. So there's two form factors that were out on the market, and ones we had seen originally through Curiosity Lab were a purpose-built autonomous shuttle, and so didn't have all the features that a vehicle has, right? Because it was built with autonomy as its platform. So there wasn't a steering wheel, there wasn't rear side mirrors, all those things you see on a traditional car, but they were really focused on that last mile connection. So average speed, 11 to 13 miles an hour. So it served well inside of the campus, and as we learned and got comfortable with the autonomous platforms, but as you need to start moving into other areas of cities, how do you start to create a microtransit scenario for service? So you have to go a little faster. And then what the challenge with the shuttles brings is, because they're not a vehicle, you actually have to get a waiver from the federal government to operate them on the road. So as we all know, that increases your time to deployment.
Sure.
So working with May, they use what's called an FMVSS standard vehicle, so Toyota Sienna, which fits perfect in the suburbs. With us, I drive a minivan, so I can say that. And so they can deploy immediately from day one because it already meets those standards from a vehicle perspective. The speed is a lot higher, so now your route of operation increases. Because our goal, right, is let's connect all these hotels to the downtown,
Yeah.
continue to feed our economic driver, and use that. So we needed to go a little faster.
So it goes 30 miles an hour now? Or?
It goes up to 35 miles an
35.
hour. Yeah, and we'll be going to 40 miles an hour by end of this year.
That's fairly good.
Yeah.
That's good for local streets, actually.
Absolutely.
You don't want
Absolutely.
to go faster than 40 miles, especially in Roswell, in some places, Roswell. So that's cool. So now we have the vehicle. I was in it a couple of weeks ago. It was a great ride. It was a little strange. Like my oldest son said, he works here in Tech Park. He says, Dad, seeing that car drive with no driver really is strange. And I felt strange too in the car, and no driver. We're sitting in the back. I felt like, where's this going? How is this going to go? But it was fast. I mean, it was easy. There was no problem. Left turns were great. My son, I'll share this. I don't know if he'll like it or not, but he tried to test the vehicle. So he sped up a little bit to see if it would actually try to make that left turn, knowing that he was going to stop or something. But it didn't do it, and it went and it waited, and then it did its turn. So that was a real life test on that street.
That's why we're here.
Absolutely.
And that's the whole point of Curiosity Lab, what we want to do to evaluate the technology to make sure it is safe operations on our roadways. They're not the only one that tests these vehicles, so
Oh, I'm sure.
we see all kinds of fun things happening in the lab.
Do you get to see live feeds, by the way?
Absolutely.
Can you check live feeds as it goes to see?
The operators,
Yeah.
they're all sitting behind in May space,
Yeah.
ensuring safety.
Absolutely. So the way it works is that when we run in a fully autonomous vehicle, meaning no driver, you have the vehicle running, but there is someone watching the whole time. And so we do have a teleassist person, if you will, watching the vehicles live in real time to make sure the vehicle is doing what it's doing. And also if they run into situations or situations, for example, if you have an emergency management vehicle, right? If there's unexpected construction, if there's things like that where, someone actually needs to keep an eye on the vehicle and help the vehicle kind of make decisions. Yeah.
So the way it works it's almost Uberish to me, right?
Yeah.
So I download an app. I say I need the car. Right now there's 8 points of pickup, right? Eventually the whole idea is that there shouldn't be any points of pickup except where I want to be picked up, right?
Right.
At a hotel, a restaurant, whatever. So we get in the car, if I remember correctly. The system actually scans a barcode or something off the app
Correct.
and accepts you as the ride.
Right.
And it's running the AC, it's doing its thing.
Yeah.
What else can I do in that? Can I listen to music? Can I, what else is the possibilities?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, first, obviously, first and foremost, we want to make sure the experience getting on and off the ride is safe, it's easy,
Yeah.
right? Because like you mentioned before, for a first-time rider, sometimes they're like, oh, this is a little weird, right? And but once you're in the vehicle, the QR code is very specific. We want to make sure the right person is in the vehicle,
Right.
right? And the vehicle won't move if it's
Oh,
not the
really?
right person. It'll
Okay.
just literally just sit there.
Oh, wow.
And so, what you were talking about is the in-cabin, features and functionalities. When you enter the vehicle, you will see a big, screen, a large tablet, and it allows you to really just be with the vehicle and track kind of where the vehicle is going.
Right.
It allows you to see pedestrians and trucks and cars and all the things that, that you would normally see as a driver, right? And need to maneuver around if you needed to. But then there's also other features and functionalities we're exploring, things like air conditioning, things like music, other things that we could add to make it a really great experience. But at the end of the day, it's really odd to say it this way, we really want the experience to be boring because that's probably the best. I mean, initially you're like, oh, wow, this is kind of cool. And then after a while, you just start looking at your phone, you chat with your
Yeah.
fellow rider, and then it's kind of normalized.
wonder how that would be. There's a comedy show. It's comedians in cars or something looking for a coffee shop.
There you go.
They don't need a driver. They can just be going through the thing.
Absolutely.
So, I can see the future a little bit. If I could be a futurist a little bit, and this is an Uber type car. Uber Eats isn't too far behind that. Drop the food in there. It's coming by a house. You go in, you can just take it off the seat and get your food. But there's other things I'm thinking about too. So I've changed my mind now. I want to go somewhere else. Or I need to pick up a friend. So it's ride share almost. These are possibilities, I imagine, in the future.
Absolutely, yeah, and we're looking at all of these. Right now, there's single passengers or what you call group passengers, so you can have multiple people in your own group. But we would love to do a rideshare type of model where multiple people can get in, and that's actually what we do in all of our other locations.
Is it?
It is,
Okay.
yeah. We've launched in 15 different locations. We're in 9 that are active right now, and we have multiple variants of this. We have rideshare where multiple people can come in, but then also we have wheelchair accessible vehicles as well, for people with disabilities. And so what we'd like to do is how do we create the same user experience as an able-bodied passenger for a person with a disability, and then also how do we do it in a way where if someone was to come in, what would that look like, right? Is that okay? And as I mentioned before, the good news is that we're still kind of watching you. There are cameras in the vehicle, and we have a call button there as well. So if anyone ever needs help or needs to talk to someone, they can call the button. There's someone who can look
That's
in
cool.
the vehicle.
That's cool.
So you're not really quite alone, if you will.
So not a chatbot, but an actual person.
An actual person, yes, yes.
Good. What has May Mobility learned from this experience, from being here? What do you expect to learn, and then what are you going to use it for?
Right. No, well, first, we're really proud that this is the first driverless commercial autonomous deployment, I guess. I know that's kind of a mouthful there, in the state of Georgia. And we're really excited about that. And we're really appreciative that Georgia happens to be a very AV-friendly state. So that's kind of part one. Part two is that, as Brandon was saying, we really want to make sure that the technology and the innovation that we're developing is being applied, and we learn from those applications. So, for example, we operate on public roads in mixed traffic conditions, pedestrians, different weather conditions, in the snow and very, very hot weather. And here in Peachtree Corners, it's kind of odd because we're going a little reverse. It is a dedicated AV lane. And so that's a little different than what we've been operating. But the beauty of that is that we're also very cognizant that airports, universities, other employment centers have a lot of need for this particular, type of service. And so we're really learning about, okay, what would a fixed route service look like? There's a lot of hills and sharp turns here, that we are learning from as well. And because we're picking up visitors from the Marriott, for example, over to other office locations and City Hall, then it's giving us an idea of, okay, well, are there any differences in terms of how people interact with the vehicle at a hotel, location? So even those small things are very useful to us.
Okay. As you were saying that, I was thinking of the ability of the HOV lanes, for example, right? Because that's what this is almost, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned, I think, once before on the ride that I took, that there are unique things besides the hills and stuff. The fact that it is an HOV type lane, you have to make a right or left differently
Yes.
in that type of environment. So it's learning more than it would almost in a real world.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's interesting is we're learning and how other vehicles also react to us as well. So, not every vehicle might notice that that's an AV lane and they want to decide to cut across an AV.
Yes.
Like, how do you manage that particular situation? What do you need to do to make sure other folks on the road know that this is an AV, or how to interact with that? And it's just good, roadside safety. Yeah.
It's interesting because it could be used as an ingress egress, where that driver goes into that lane to
Yes.
make that right turn, maybe into the driveway.
Exactly.
Brandon, as far as the vehicle and everything else, it's been almost 5 years in September. this type of expansion and the type of vehicle and the type of work that you're doing, how does this help Curiosity Lab to expand and get into other, can you piggyback off this? Can you use this in what ways?
Yeah, and we've started that process a little bit with the infrastructure, right? From growing it out of Tech Park into 141, as we've seen, the evolution of the technology really needs those more dense, higher traffic volume, higher residential area. So this, right, we've kind of figured out the office park environment, dedicated lane, but what happens like our public concerts? That's a great use of this type of technology. Got all of our neighbors that are coming to the concert. They're all driving in. We know we don't have enough parking on site.
Yeah.
Can we start to use the shuttle to do that? So we know that expansion of the technology is already here with
Right.
some of the deployments May's doing. So how do we start to incorporate it into the city?
I was thinking about what Mayor Mike Mason said to me once. He says, it'd be great for a vehicle of that sort to come into Amber Field or Fox Hill, pick us up at the house, take us to the concert, and then take us back home and not have to worry about walking the mile or two, driving, finding parking, and all that stuff. So, now I could see the city, really our little smart city north of Atlanta, being more of that technology and using more. I mean, we're getting more LDR cameras, all these security cameras, all these other cameras. God knows how many cameras are in the car. Just by itself, there's like 8 cameras. or
Right,
something.
yes,
There's like
yes.
a great number of cameras. But in all this data that you're accumulating, it just will help grow. Now, I'm assuming even the data you're getting from other cities is going to inform what this vehicle does as well.
Yeah, it learns from all of its environments because some things are similar.
Yes.
Some things are different, right? I mean, the deployment in Grand Rapids
Yes.
hugely different than what we're doing here, but
Yeah.
there's still trees, there's still fire hydrants, there's all those roadside markers
Absolutely.
that the vehicle continues to learn from.
Absolutely. And you want to be able to kind of get as much data as possible in diverse learning environments, right? Because the way the technology works, there's 2 parts of it, right? Like you said before, it's the cameras, the sensors, all the hardware. But then you've got the software component, which is the brains of everything. And we call it multi-policy decision making. So think of it like you've got to be making thousands and thousands and thousands of decisions in a millisecond. And so how do you make those decisions? You have to combine both what you've already accumulated from a knowledge perspective, but then also, kind of the intelligence and the AI decision making of like, okay, here are all the different scenarios. What's the best one? What's the safest one? What's the best in terms of customer, experience and smoothness, all those things.
It's funny, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of a particular event that happened where I saw this woman, and a woman, guy, doesn't matter, I've seen it often enough, where they're pulling out, ready to, they're creeping out into the street, deciding whether they should go or not go.
Yeah.
And I'm saying out loud to myself, don't go, because I'm coming. I have the right of way.
Right.
And they're playing chicken. And this happens
Yeah.
at
Absolutely.
the forum. When people are exiting sometimes out of on Peachtree Corners Circle, just some people think they can make that left. Wanna beat the car.
Absolutely.
It's not a good thing.
It's really interesting from a safety perspective, and I know that's something that the city and Curiosity Lab has been really, really keen on. Is we get anecdotal comments all the time from our clients in other areas. So, for example, in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, they say, oh, the vehicle's going over there, and then all of a sudden it stops. And so what's happening? And a deer comes out, right?
Oh,
and
wow.
so
Okay.
it saw the
Knew it.
deer, and so that could have, avoided, an accident there. And then I know that we have another location where they said that they were at a 4-way intersection, and then, the light turned green, but the vehicle didn't go, and everybody was honking behind the vehicle, and they're like, why aren't we going? And immediately, a couple seconds later, there was a car that ran really fast past a red light.
Wow.
And so if you think about that, that car, if it had gone, it would have gotten T-boned.
Yeah.
So things of that nature. And then, if it was us in the vehicle, we would be like stressed out. Someone's honking, we're like, we better go. And we could have gone, even,
Yes.
with that, right?
Yes.
But the vehicle just kind of doesn't want to break the law and just does what it's supposed to do. It doesn't get stressed. It doesn't get sleepy.
It's not on the cell phone.
It's not on
At
the cell
stoplight.
phone.
Yes.
It hasn't had a couple
Distracted.
glasses of wine. So
Is that
all
talking
of
to the
those
chat
things.
bot on the side?
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So yeah.
So because I know that feeling. I've seen that happen in
Yes.
front of me.
Yeah.
And so I usually wait a beat or two before I go through
Right.
big intersections. You never
Right.
know.
You
So-
never
know.
know. You never
so
know.
This is maybe a tough question to ask, but how has the accident rate been? Has there been any?
Well, there's been accidents, absolutely. We've been operating since 2017 in 15 cities, and we operate 60 hours a week.
That's a
So
lot of time.
if you look at it from a public transit perspective, there's going to be some. However, what we are really, really proud of, we're proud of our safety record. Autonomous vehicles are actually very highly regulated by NHTSA, and so we are required, and not just us, any autonomous vehicle company is required to report any incident in, and when I say incident, it's even like a mirror clip. Or a curb, a curb cut if, the system has been in autonomy for a particular, amount of time. And so anyone can go in and look, and I think we have we're very proud of our safety record.
I'm sure. It probably is way better than a normal person's
Yes.
driving. So your insurance should be a lot cheaper. As far as the other cities you're in, you're all on local streets though, wherever you are. It's not highway driving. Right?
No, we don't do highway driving, because of the speeds at this point.
But do you have a plan a year out from now, what you plan to do?
Yeah, we have a roadmap, and so every year we make modifications. Speed is one of the big ones, right? To get to those milestones from our roadmap. And then it's combined with the progression or the maturity of the technology itself. The LiDARs, for example, on top of the vehicles, how far they can see, for example. And then also, the progression of our technology as well. But for the most part, everywhere we've gone, we've always found locations to operate in because, 40 miles an hour, that's decent.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always areas, downtown areas, residential areas.
Speed limits on 35. in
35,
places,
yeah,
so so that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
As far as the information, the data, right? So everyone's sensitive about that to some degree. And I know data is collected in a fashion that it doesn't tie to a specific person.
Yes.
But obviously I have an app. I'm calling for a car. Does it pick up any which would be interesting, I think, to know for you all as well. Will it eventually pick up the data like demographics and such, the age of the person, where it's being used? Will that eventually be important to how the company expands its business or how it does its business?
Yeah, from our perspective, there are two pieces of data that are really important to us. The fleet, what we call the fleet API data or the autonomy data, right? Because safety is most important. Whether or not data is collected, we contract directly with cities and public transit agencies. And so most cities and public transit agencies are very sensitive to this and also, are required by law in some circumstances that, you don't collect the personally identifiable information. So we
Sure.
actually don't. And
So not even demographics like
Nope,
that even?
none of
That's
that.
a shame.
Yeah. Now, in the future, we don't know. Like you said, we don't know what the evolution could look like.
Yeah.
But for the most part, from a government perspective, that's something that is very important to government, right? To protect personally identifiable information, so we don't collect that.
I think that's been the unique approach how May's entered the market versus what you see when you think of like the robo-taxis, the Waymos, the Cruises, the Zooks, where that is a ride-share first approach, whereas
Right.
May's taking the approach to really partner with the city to offset those
Right.
gaps in the public transportation space.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's about filling transportation gaps, right? Because we do have two models. The model that we've grown up with, and the model that we have here is, contracting directly with cities and public transit systems. What that allows us to do is really tailor our services to the way that the city or the public transit system wants it tailored to really complement and fill in those gaps. Now we have, also signed a partnership with Lyft as well,
Okay, yes, I
and
saw
so,
that.
which will be launching service here in Atlanta, this
Oh, wow.
calendar year. So we're excited about that. But that's another model, and we know that that's also a needed model. I mean, if you
That's
think,
That's going to be in the city? Or is
yes,
it
in the
Atlanta?
city. And if you think about all the things that Atlanta brings, and the economic development of the city and the overflow that comes into Peachtree Corners too. I mean, we have FIFA coming, we have the Super Bowl coming, we have Dragon Con every year,
Yes.
right? And
True.
so,
Love that.
right? And so those are all big events where we can see the vehicles really providing meaningful service.
You all also did just a recent agreement with what's the name of the company? It's a
Technobus.
Yes, Technobus.
Technobus, yes.
That's also doing disability, accessibility, but being used in cities where I think it's 20 passengers.
Yeah, no, great. So obviously, again, the use case is the most important, right? We want to match the right vehicle with the right use case.
Okay.
So if you need to, for example, service an airport, a bus of that size, which is up to 30 standing, 16 sitting, for example, is a great use case. And also there's other benefits too. It's got the accessibility component. This particular bus actually is running in Europe already with public transit agencies in 40, 50 different cities. So what we love about that, we say it's a workhorse. Very similar to what Brandon was saying. We know it's running in public cities. It has done its job. So now we just need to autonomize it, if you will, and make it run without a driver.
I don't want to stereotype, but European drivers are crazy drivers, especially if you go to Italy, where my heritage is. The Napolitans are nuts.
And it is, believe it or not, actually Technobus is an Italian company.
Is it?
So, yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Put everyone in an autonomous vehicle, get less accidents.
Yeah, but we are very
I can see
grateful. They're wonderful partners, and we actually are very fortunate to have a lot of wonderful partners in Toyota, in State Farm, in a whole bunch of NTT, a whole bunch of other investors and partners.
And I could see that as a better use in Atlanta than the trolley system they just put up recently, right? It's a lot less infrastructure, right? To put, you can just run these things and set a route and it goes. Yeah, way more efficient, I bet. What else can the Curiosity Lab learn from this partnership that you think that, because you've been to the CES show, you've been to Israel, to other countries, trying to bring business here. So how can you use this to...
As we think of not just us, but all of our cities that we work with across the U.S., how are these new technologies going to shape the future of our cities, right? They're going to play a role. So why does the city not stand in the front of that and support it? So learning how they operate, what are some of our limitations? It is still new technology, relatively speaking, so there are going to be some limits on what you can do with it and how do we overcome them, which we're seeing here. And then we translate that to our partners that we work with in Texas and Colorado and Arizona. Right. Hey, let's share in this.
Do you share information?
We do,
like that?
yeah. We all said it's a very awesome group that we get together and we share what's going on, share the ideas. Hey, this worked, this didn't. I saw this. What are you seeing here? Because in the end, we all want a better service for the resident, whether that's here in Peachtree Corners, in Atlanta, in Colorado, in Texas. So, and all of these technologies help us do that. And so for us, Councilman Wright, he's a big proponent of AVs. So we have to be looking forward on how do these start to service the residents, because you don't take public transportation now because it's not convenient.
No, it's not.
Right. So can we supplement with these types of technologies to start to make that convenient and maybe take a few cars off the roadway when we're going shopping or going to downtown? And
Well,
I think
and-
this is our chance.
And I think like Gwinnett County is starting to get into microtransit.
Yep.
I think, which is pretty much your vehicles can be used.
It's
for that.
exactly what it is, yeah. It's there's different models, right, to Brandon's point, public transit like we have here in, Peachtree Corners and in Gwinnett County, we have a fantastic partner,
Right.
On the public transit side. But, it's normal as cities grow And as there's more economic development, what ends up happening is that you want to make sure that those pockets are filled and those gaps are filled. And sometimes, public transit may not get there fast enough, or
Sure.
or may need help. Where we can supplement and connect into public transit, and that's where microtransit is. That's the beauty of it, is that you get to your point, like a ride share TNC type of service where you can pull up an app and ask to go wherever so you can get really shorter wait times and more convenient service.
The future's almost here.
Yes. I'd say it is here.
It's here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
here.
And,
yeah.
and thinking about that too, and thinking about COVID, and what that did to people. Because I know quite a few people that some of them still wear masks, some of them still don't like crowds, and these types of microtransits would be beneficial to them.
Yeah.
I think.
Absolutely.
Or even seniors that can't get around. I think.
Absolutely.
That if it gets there, it'd be easier too.
A lot of our locations, seniors are our heaviest riders in a lot of ways, which is quite interesting. A lot of people think, oh, well, seniors really take it. But if you think about it, seniors in a lot of ways need it the most,
Yeah.
because there's sometimes mobility challenges. And, instead of having to rely on loved ones all the time, this
Right.
is a great opportunity to provide more, independence for them.
I think there's a stereotype out there that they don't do that, but they're
Oh,
probably
yeah.
on iPads way more than their
Yes, they
grandkids,
are.
I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And they give us great feedback.
I'm sure they do, yes. Anything that we've forgotten? We're getting towards the end of our conversation, so anything that you want to share that
I
we
would,
didn't-
just encourage our residents to come out, take a ride, experience it, get comfortable with the technology.
Cool. Where can they download the app?
Yep, so you just go online and you can pull up a May Mobility app, and then you find it and then just download it, and you'll see, Peachtree Corners in there. Wherever you are, if you're in the area, you can pretty much, call up a vehicle to any of our 8 stop locations.
On Technology Parkway.
Yep.
Yes.
Which runs from what used to be Andeby's, which is close to the
Spalding Drive.
Spalding Drive, thank you. Norcross High School Wesleyan is right on that corner, all the way down to the Marriott.
Yes.
So check that out. Guys, I appreciate you being with me. This was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Love being here at Curiosity Lab. Just more to come, right?
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. And thank you to our sponsors again, EV Remodeling Inc. and Vox Populi. I appreciate you guys supporting us. Thank you so much.